How are you guys doing? Welcome back. Today we're going to do a violin drawing. So if you would like to do something else, like an upright bass or a cello or an archtop guitar, anything in that range, you're welcome to do that. This will all be helpful to you. We're going to see how to draw an object that has a flat-ish top or slightly curved top and then straight sides, and how to make that three-dimensional. And we're also going to see how the light goes across this violin and changes the color a little bit from here to there. So let's get started. We're going to start with a sort of letter C shape that goes from here up to there. So let's flesh that out a little bit. Now it's got a slight angle to it because the center of the violin is going to go this way. So we're going to start with that C shape here, and then we're going to do one that's facing the opposite way here, and it's going to be slightly smaller, and the center of it is going to focus on that center line that I sort of traced out. I didn't really draw it, but why don't I just draw it for you now? Right there. So the center of this C shape is on that line as well. There we go. Next, we're going to flare out just a little bit at the end of each of these shapes. Each of these lines, I should say. And then we're going to do a C shape on each side that faces this way and that way, perpendicular to what we've drawn already. So we've got a shape that looks like this and a shape that looks like this. All right, that's going to be the beginning of our violin. Next, we have a big set of lines that kind of converge towards this point. They don't come all the way together at the end of the violin, but they come closer and closer and closer as they go up. This is on a guitar, it's called a fretboard, but a violin doesn't have any frets, so I'm not sure what it's called. All right, we're going to close that off with a line right here. And then violins have this really cool curly headstock, so it goes downwards like this, and then we're going to draw a circle right here, and then come down from underneath what I'm calling the fretboard and go parallel to this line that you just drew earlier. And that means run with the flow of that line, curve back up and connect it to your circle. There you go. All right, there's the headstock. Now we're just going to add some curvy shapes on the edge here for the tuning gears. Right here and right here. We'll just have to erase the line that's in the middle of those. There we go. All right, we're coming along really well. The bridge for the violin is down here, and it's where the strings start to they meet at a certain spot right about here. And this bridge is going to be made from one vertical line and one line that's almost vertical, and then we're going to connect to the top. And that goes right here. So one vertical line, one almost vertical line right here, and then we'll connect the top like so. All right, and the strings would follow from here all the way up to there. It's easiest for me to draw a line in this direction, so that's what I'm going to do. There's one of the strings. Here's another string. Now violins have 4 strings. So we're going to make sure we get all of those on here. There we go. All 4 strings made it up to the bridge. Next, we go down to, I'm going to call this piece a saddle. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. They go down to a shape over here that looks like this. Okay. Then there's this place where there's an area to rest your chin, curves around and comes back this way and then towards the bottom of the violin. Now obviously this shape is over top of the violin underneath, so we're going to erase that part. There we go. Good. Next, we're going to follow these strings back to the saddle. There we go. Now we have these S shapes. The S shapes start right here above the bridge, and they will draw one side first. So it's going to curve around and then head down towards the bottom of the violin and then curve back up towards the top. And then we're going to add a little circle onto each end, and it's a little bit thinner around the curve and a little bit thicker in the central part of the S, and comes back up this way. Now I just realized I added the circle on the wrong side of the S, so I'm going to flip that to this side. There we go, that looks better. Alright, and we've got one on the other side as well. This one's harder to see because the top of the violin is curving a little bit, and we'll see a circle right here. It's going to travel again down towards the bottom of the violin, which is in this direction, and then curve back up and show a circle right there. And it's going to be a little bit thinner again because it's partially blocked from our view. Okay, we're getting there. Next we just need to add a little bit to the sides of the violin to show its form. So I'm going to add lines that go straight down from every part of the violin that's showing one of its sides. So from this side especially here, these lines go parallel to the edge of your page, straight down here, and we've already got straight down there. You can just add an extra one right here to remind you. And then what we're going to do is connect these straight down lines with a line that runs the same direction as the line on top, just like this. So here it goes this way on top, so it's going to go this way on the bottom. Then it curves this way on the top, so it's going to curve this way on the bottom. There we go. Next, same principle right here. Follow the top wherever it leads all the way to the bottom of that line. Alright, now we've got a fairly three-dimensional looking form. Let's start filling in some color. So I'm going to go with a very light orangish color that I've got here. If you have the same, I suggest you follow along with that. This is probably the lightest that the wood of the violin is going to look. So I'm going to put this in first and then come in with the darker colors afterwards. I'm going to leave a little space in between the very edge of the violin and this orangish color because I want to have a highlight there at the very edge where the violin comes down, then turns back up a little bit to meet the binding on the edge. Alright, I'm going to try to leave a little bit of white space in between each string to sort of suggest that the strings are there, because after all they are kind of more light color than dark. There we go. Alright. And we'll fill this light orange all the way back to the top of the violin. All right, we are getting there. All right, next, let's do the side of the violin in another type of brown, a more dark brown. This isn't the darkest brown I have, though. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna shade some parts in black, and then hopefully we can get into some variation in brown, because some of these parts will stay this light orangish brown that we did at the beginning, and some will get darker and darker. But first, we've got to get the fretboard and the S-shaped holes filled in with black. So I'm going to get started on that. All right, did we end up with more than 4 strings here? There's this center line, as I colored it in, was interpreted as a string, but this is actually not a string. So I'm going to fill that in and also fill it in where I left a space for it on the fretboard. There we go. Okay. Great. Next, let's fill these holes in. That is a really fun shape. All right, next, let's get some of this brown in here. So we'll start with that middle brown that we used on the sides. And I would like to just fill in some areas that are in shadow right here in between the chin rest and the saddle is going to have some darker brown for sure. We're going to have darker brown over on this side in between the bridge and the side of the body. So I'm going to start by adding some of that in right here. Now this is a sort of effect of the light. It's not a hard edge. So you can leave your strokes a little bit more feathery, you could say, right here, because we don't want to make one consistent line where the shadow ends, but rather sort of fade it out as best as we can. Next, there's going to be a shadow right here under this fretboard type area, right along there. And there's going to be a darker part, again, where it curves over on the other side as well. All right, there we go. Next, we can take this dark color and go around the rim of the violin in some spots where there's a little groove here at the binding that's going to block some of the light and give us a dark outline. But that dark outline is also sometimes paired with a white outline. That's why I've left certain parts white here, as you can see. And I think this will look most convincing for you if you use it in some places but not in others, because the way that this groove in the violin works, it doesn't catch the light in every spot. So it's not going to be dark in every spot around the entire violin. We'll call it there. Okay, good. Now it's time to pay a little attention to the head, but before we do that, I'm just going to shade in another little area on the chin rest here, because that has a sort of concave part. And let's also shade a little bit on this side. There's some hardware that comes out here to attach, I would assume, the saddle to the body. Okay, now the saddle and the head need some attention. So let's use that light orangish brown that we had from earlier and just fill it in, except for any parts that are going to be white. There might be some parts that are white right up here where it curls around. So right there and right there are going to be left white, as well as a little ring on the side of this circle. It's going to be white as well. So be careful to leave those, and then we can fill the rest in with our general light orangish color. There we go. All right, let's use some of that middle brown that we have. Go around the side of this circle, being careful to leave that white highlight. And also, as this circle curves under, there's going to be more shading there. Also, we're going to decide that this is the side of the shape. And the side of the shape is facing away from the light, so it receives less light. Therefore, it gets a little more shading, as well as this spot under here. Okay. All right, this is looking okay. I think it's time to break out an even darker brown to take it one step further. So I'm going to take my darkest brown. Hopefully you have one too. If not, work with what you have. And I'm going to fill in some of the darkest areas. So right here on these points, it tends to get very dark. You'll have a lot of darkness right under this shadow that we drew earlier. You can darken it even further with this brown. Let's also add a little bit of that light brown right in here to sort of fade out from that really dark shadow into a medium shadow. Let's also take that very light brown we had from earlier and not forget the saddle. Good. Okay. Coming back in with our middle brown, and I'm just gonna hit the lower side of that saddle so that it appears to have light reflecting off of it. And underneath the saddle, we're probably going to want to come back and do this with the darkest brown, but there's a shadow there, so let's fill that in. There we go. Okay, now right in here there's a very deep groove. It's definitely going to need some dark brown. I think some of the middle brown will go right in here as the violin curves towards the base. We're going to take some of that dark brown and throw it on the underside of the violin right here. Okay, we're getting close to being finished. I'd like to add some of that dark brown here as well, and a little bit along this side. All right. You could always draw a little bit of extra gray coming downwards for a shadow or a reflection, but that just about does it for this drawing. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you can take some time to check out how light looks as it falls across an instrument and what kind of shapes you see. All right, I'll talk to you next time. Bye.